Hey everyone, Ted Simpson here. Happy birthday, Bob. I'm filming this on Tuesday the 29th, what would have been Bob's 82nd birthday. And here we are, ready to do another fine painting. I'm going to use this 16 by 20 canvas, landscape style, and I've already painted it black, put on a thin coat of the liquid clear, and we're ready to put in some color. What I've got here is a mixture of mostly black, just a little bit of the Prussian blue. Mix those two colors together. And if you want to see what the color is going to look like, you just do a little tester pile over there with a little bit of titanium white. If you like the flavor, we're ready to go. Now, what I'm going to do here is cover the entire canvas with a thin coat of this. What I did is stripe about 3 inches across. I reload this big old 2-inch brush, and I'm going to put in another stripe of color. Not really overworking it, just getting it spread out there. Reload, and do the next bit. Okay, you can circle scrub it, or crisscross scrub it, but the idea is just to keep moving. Okay, put some on here, and once you get a little bit of practice, you'll be able to gauge how many brushfuls you need to do a whole canvas. If you're using a smaller canvas, well, you'd be done by now. So really, I'm just focusing on this last 3.5 inch section here, just grinding it on, working it in. And I'm just giving this kind of a once over here, just to make sure I've got some on. I'll tell you what, just like how we test the liquid white, I'm going to tap 4 different spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I've got some paint on all 4 fingers. If you don't think you have enough, if it's not as bold as you like, you can put some more on. Up here in the sky, I would say, would be the more important part of this. That's where we're going to see most of this. And just that little bit down here, we're going to have snow today. So just having a little bit of that blue-black, black-blue, is just going to create shadows in our snow. The nighttime scene, am I spoiling it for you? Well, it'll be spoiled in the title. So this is Bob's Christmas Eve snow. And let's go ahead and clean out that 2-inch brush. That does mess up your brush there. It's pretty strong stuff. So just take a moment here and knock off this excess paint. And we'll use this brush for blending as well, once we get it all clean. Beater bucket. You know, there's at least one thing I forget to do here. My beater bucket was a couple feet away. I got a couple of extra colors to lay out on my palette here as we go through the painting. I just wanted to get this blue-black mixture set up first. And last little bit on the easel, spray some against my backstop. Now, in this case here, Bob normally has the paint kind of pulled out, a little bit of a ramp, but I'm just going to kind of tease some out with my 2-inch brush, and I tap while moving a little bit side to side, not like this and that, but just moving my brush from side to side, picking up some color throughout the width of that brush. And you know that the white shows up very strong on a black canvas. That's why I start with a little, and we can always add more if we want. Putting in our little glow here in the sky, just getting some of that color worked off here, leaving plenty of dark. This is just some background color. Look at that. As I run out of paint in my brush, it automatically converts the brush into a blending brush. Look at that. Crisscross strokes. Put the color on, work it into the dark. If you ever need a little bit more bright, just add a little bit more and you can make bits of this a little brighter. Once it blends away, or you clean your brush, then a couple of strokes softens everything. And we're ready to go. Going crazy here. We're using our 1-inch brush and I'm pulling, getting some color up on the tips of the bristles by pulling without too much wrist work here. We just want to pull without bending the bristles too much. Turn that brush so that little rounded corner faces up. And let's make some clouds. All I really care about mainly is the top of my cloud form here. Let it trail off there. Beep, 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 beep. Picking up a little bit of color, making this sort of a rounded shape. And now, once again, once most of the color is off my brush, I'm going to stir some of that paint downwards. Don't even have to clean the brush for this one. Look how it already goes from bright to dark from top to bottom there. Just want to soften it a little bit. Then I'll stop. I got this brush, it's mostly clean. I can do any last minute, any further blending here, just a couple little circles. Very gentle, we're talking whispers touch here. I just had a video where I made big old shadow clouds using this 1-inch brush method. Barely touch, I'm just trying to soften that color. If you blend it too much, all that bright color just disappears. I want a nice transition from bright to dark, top to bottom. And I'm going to go right in here, pick up that paint again, just working it a little at a time. And let's put in another little cloud shape, focusing on the top, making sure that that top is nice and bright. Overlap the bottom edge of the previous cloud if you can. And look at that, that one caps out as well. Well, let's change that just a little bit. There we go. And then, again, with most of the paint off the brush, you can soften that, kind of grow that cloud downwards a little bit just by softening the bottom edge. It makes the whole cloud a little bigger. There we go. Any part that's bugging you, go ahead and mess with it. Just put a little in. Now I say go ahead and mess with it, but just a little bit. Know your limits of messing. Okay, we just want to soften. Barely tickle, tickle, tickle. If you tickle too much, and that whole cloud just wants to go away. It doesn't mind a little bit of tickling. It doesn't like a whole lot of tickling. Barely touch, whisper touch, miss a few times. That's how light. Just like that. Now a little bit here in my brush, I just sort of blend that rest of it out. If you got any little brush marks from your clouds, you can soften this. Now I think Bob might have tossed in a tiny little cloud here. Like if you wanted to put in a little background cloud, just a little zinger there. Just using the corner of the brush to hit that cloud. Ooh, it just fades away. There we go. Oh, I kind of like that. I'm not sure if we'll even see this one, but if I take another one, just little swoopy cloud disappearing behind our foreground. There we go. Simple enough. Now I've got that same blue-black color here. Pull it out nice and flat. Cut off my roll of paint. Maybe even a bigger roll of paint. And let's go ahead and let's put a mountain in. Ooh, there we go. Some of that cloud disappears, you know? Just pushing this on. Maybe change that angle a little bit. Add another little peak over on this side. And it's just going to wander right on off to the right there. Just pressing some of that paint right into the fabric. Gather up my color as I need to, pull it out flat again, cut across. There we go. Maybe we'll have another peak right here. And that one kind of wanders down out to the right. Or your other right. Some people call it left. I sometimes call it the other right. Oh boy. Any of these little issues here, I kind of went outside my area, so you can just clean that up. You know what? All of a sudden it just changes. Make it everything a little bit bigger. There we go. Now I'm just lightly scraping, not getting too crazy here. Just taking off a little bit of excess. Maybe a little lump right there. Because we're going to use that color to slide on out. Build out the basic shape of our mountain. As we do, the right side of the peak goes to the right, the left side goes to the left, and all we're trying to do is make a basic shape. Okay, you don't have to go over this too many times. It's best if you don't. Now, we're just moving right along here. My titanium white, now it's got a little bit of this blue-black in it, just to make it off-white. You see here, it's not super stark white, a little bit off-white. You'll be hard-pressed to tell once it's on there. You'll just know that it's not, you know, noon in the Arctic, as I like to say. And as we do, we're going to highlight the right side here using an incredibly light touch. Just let that knife graze outwards. Reload and move on. Light touches. As you run out of paint, you can let your knife get a little flatter to the canvas to get a little bit more off. And one of the things I say to my students frequently, don't try to move that color. Okay, once it's on there, right here, you can't really spread it down. It'll fill in all of your little dark spots, all our nooks and crannies. Don't want to fill in all those nooks and crannies. Unless you want it to look like completely covered snow, I suppose. I like seeing those little breaks Bob talks about. Put a little on that side as well. Maybe bring this out just a little bit, just to... There we go. Now let's mix up a little bit of shadow color. Our shadow color is going to be white with just a touch of the Prussian blue. Now this is a nighttime scene, so maybe just a little bit of black to dull it down even more. Don't want to do too much here. You can hold it up to your canvas, see what you think of the color. Maybe a little bit more dark. A little darker, some might say. Oh, that's sufficiently dull. Little roll of paint. And this side here, I'm going to just kind of work it like this. Just a little bit of color. Pulling down and away. You could sit there and scrape like that if you wanted to. So Sort of like this. I'll line my knife up and get it right on up there. Let this come right down the edge. I don't know. Kind of feeling this motion here today. You know, this way works just as easy. A little bit of shadow here and there. All right, let's take a look. I'm taking a step or two back, seeing where we're at. I'm liking it. And we could definitely stop there. But if I wanted to, I could just add in another little peak. Don't even need the background color, just throwing in a little bit of highlight, making a right side, come right back with a little bit of the shadow, make a new shadow right on the opposite side. Every highlight needs a shadow. When you do that, boom, you can make peaks and peaks and peaks, as many or as few as you like. Even a little ridge right here. I just ridge this up, make it a little bit brighter. Come back with a shadow. Just sort of raises that up. Gives it a little indication of just a little plane out there, a little ridge. More right here. Sometimes you want to dance around and play. And there we go. Lightly softening here, just light little taps. Creating a little mistiness at the base. I'm not adding any paint, I'm just softening what's there. Little tappy taps, creating a little mist. Very light. Not much at all. Gotta get this side here, just the bottom. Little tappy taps, little light sweepy sweeps, just like how we swept up the cloud, just barely touching, lifting up, creating a little blur. If you have a blur, that's all you need. Okay. Let us mix this up here. Get my, I think a small brush might work. A little small fan. I don't think I'll need any of this shadow color, but if I do, it's right up there. And what I do often here, clean your palette space. It's nothing wrong, it only takes a second. Saves you a lot of grief. And let's mix up a pile here. Let's take the rest of our black, add some blue. I don't think we're going to have enough to get us through the day here. I'll get some more in just a minute. In fact, I'll just do it right now. So black, a little bit of Prussian blue. Get the cap off here. I don't need any more Prussian blue. I got it all right here. What am I kidding there? And just a little bit of alizarin crimson. So the blue and the crimson, Prussian blue and the crimson, make a really dull purple. And then all this black will dull it down even further. Just looking for a color that's nice and dark. Very dark purple. Okay. I'm going to load my brush full of paint. Get a nice smooth appearance. Pulling, smoothing. And then using the top half of that fan brush and tapping down. See that? Tap rapidly. And we're just looking for an interesting outer edge. All those little spikes are connected. We don't just have, fence posts. But if you put those fence posts in, then you can tap and kind of connect your posts. Look at that. Tapping, filling those in. Look at that. It's just like hundreds and hundreds of trees. Tapping and moving, tapping and moving. I kind of like that idea. It kind of helps you lay this out. You can just, of course, you can go right on across. Just keep tapping and moving, tapping and moving as much as you like. Once you feel confident, you can do this very, very quickly. And you can space these out and connect them. It allows you to control kind of where it goes. It's really up to you. I'm just working my way out there. I don't even know if we'll see any of these, so I'm not worried about putting too much paint there. Little indications. One last little tap. Striking, not really wiping so much. Just chopping at that thick paint there. There we go. Lots of paint left over for our bigger trees. But I've learned things in the years I've been doing this to alleviate potential concerns here. Cap your paints. So it falls over, you accidentally step on it, it doesn't go squirting everywhere. You don't walk away from it and come back with a dried cap of oil there. Well, there's two reasons why to do that. Keep things tidy. Now, no real paint in my brush. I'll even show you that here, just pinching some of that excess paint off. I'm just going to lightly lift my arm, and it'll flatten those colors out. Give it a little more vertical feel there, and all that smashed paint. Don't have to go over it too many times here, just sort of flattening it out, not really trying to drag too much color upwards. Just helps it look nice. Okay. And if you like a little bit of that white color, highlight color, just going to lift from the bottom up, hopefully straight up. Create lots and lots and lots of trunks. Working my way across. Pretty subtle effect. Okay? If it's a little too strong for you, just come back with your brush cleaned out and lift up again and watch it just kind of dull itself away. But little indications of trunks back in the distance. Gives a nice little detail. Like that. Now, I've got this big pile of color here. Let's make a couple of bigger trees. Start up just in the sky here, tapping down. These are little frown trees here. Gotta put something down here growing right up into our open plain, our open field of snow. You can have as many or as few of these as you like. Just looking for some indications of trees. Nothing too extreme. You don't need a ton here. Put as many or as few as you like. This one here's got a little bit of a lean to them. That's alright. The old tired tree. There we go. This one came down just a little bit lower. I'll show you why that's important. In fact, make this one just a touch lower. This one a touch lower still. So the bottom of this tree is high, medium, and low. And maybe even one more on the edge here. Putting this in here. I know it's tough to see. There we go. We got a little stand of trees. And believe it or not, we don't even have to highlight these, but I think we will, just for my students' sakes here. So I'm going to clean out my brush. Get all that paint thinner off. Maybe I'm feeling fancy. Maybe just a single drop of paint thinner instead of liquid white. I want to tell you something here. When you use paint thinner, one little drop of paint thinner is like 10 drops of liquid white. Okay, you know how fast liquid white thins the paint down. The paint thinner, even faster. Just little indications here. Not so much. Just a couple of spots where these trees are catching that moonlight. Couple of little spots here, and this one's overlapping the previous one. Not too much in the highlight department. No need. Just a bit. All right. Now, let us clean up this little bit here. I'm going to get my paint up and pull down. Little bit of that color in there, it's fine. I think Bob did this with the 2-inch brush, but we'll just do it with the 1-inch brush here. We're going to create our start of our snow. So I press the brush and move it right across. I come back a little bit and a little bit underneath and pull and back. As I'm doing this here, just working my way down, covering the base of those trees. You see how we create that sense of depth and distance. This tree is a little further away, and this one's closer, and this one's closer. And what I'm showing you here, this is night. This is nighttime, so it doesn't need to be super bright. Look how I'm still that same bit in my brush, moving my way down. If I come back and pick up just a little bit of paint, watch how bright that comes off. You can add another plane here with a little hill or some sort. Catching that moonlight. Here's another one here. But I'm pushing firmly to get the color off. The more I go over it, it's mixing with that little bit of blue-black I started the show with. Started the video with. And we just want those shadows. Those shadows are just so important in a night scene. So I'm pushing that paint on, and then once or twice, you can see that light touch comes into play. That softens and takes out brush marks. When I'm going over it like this, I am just barely touching, just trying to take some of those rake marks away, if they happen to be there. One last little bit here. Just filling in the rest here. filling in the rest. Letting it get darker and darker down here at the bottom, then into the corners. Still got a little left in my brush. Very little paint. I know when I teach this, I'm going to go through a couple of tubes of this stuff because everyone wants it, you know, super white. I just try to implore you, let it be dark. Let the dark remain. Find a couple of spots here. Pull a little bit of that dark out. Creates these deep shadows. Adds a little depth and dimension to your painting when we have lights and darks. There we go. A little too dark. So I had a little left in my brush from picking up some here. And then you can lighten it. Wow! Isn't that fun? Now we are only just past a normal Bob episode time here. We're moving right along. So in this scene here, we've got ourselves a nice little church off in the wilderness. So we just need a couple of colors here. A little bit of dark sienna for our highlights, and a bit of the Van Dyke brown to build out our wooden church. And just like the highlights and shadows on the mountain, we're going to just do this with rolls of paint. Okay? Pull out a roll of paint. That was a big pile of color there. And you cut across, you can get a roll here. Now if I go completely wide, we get big rolls. If you try to make an angle, you can control how much of a roll you get. Or you can just come right in and just pull a little bit to the side. See that? Just a little bit. So let's see what we got here. Making our little church. Maybe this church sits up, and we want to cover a little bit of that tree in the background there. All right. Now, I'm also going to use, since this is a snowy scene, we'll use a little roll of the titanium white. Now, Bob calls this a cheat. I just call this smart. You know, I think it's always a little easier to line that out. And then using the knife, one stroke here, we can make our roof. I think Bob made his a little bigger. Well, he had a 18 by 24 canvas, so he can make his church a little bigger. You can make a big one on this one too if you like. But the idea is you go over this just enough to see it. There's little color variations or little breaks or holes. It's okay. Need a little bit of snow on the other side there. There it is. And the rest of this little church is blocking in color. And I think I'm going to do that with my small knife. When you make small buildings there, the small knife is a little friendlier. Just making an idea of where our church is going to stand out. See that? You can already start to see a building there. Now if this center line is just a little bit lower, it creates that perspective that we're looking for. So once you make the outline there, I'm just slathering paint down here. My knife is very flat to the canvas, and we're just filling this in, blocking in color, as Bob would tell us. And this here, just bring that right on down. Already we start to see a shape forming here. And using a little bit of our white and dark sienna, I make a quick marbly mixture Wipe your knife clean, cut off a little roll, and I'm going to line this up just under the eave and bring it down to make a highlight, make this look like old boards. This is a super fast technique. Don't try to fiddle with it too much. The more you go over this, the darker and darker it gets. So, I'm adding just a touch of the dark color to my highlight, and I'm going to highlight the side here in a little bit darker tones, just so that it makes sense. There we go. Now, I think in Bob's scene here, he actually just put windows on both sides of this. Like the front of the church is this side, facing the mountain. But before we do that, I'm getting these small rolls here on the small edge of the small knife. And we got to make a little steeple. And I'm just going to slather a basic chimney. Just making it taller than a chimney. Okay? Putting a little on the back side there. Trying to give this a sense of a steeple, a two-sided thing here. So we only see part here on the front side, on the roof, the front of the roof. There we go. And then a little bit of highlight here on this side. Just a little touch, little touch, little touch, little touch. Ooh, that was a big touch. And I'll clean up this back side here. Two different colors. Now the steeple, Bob made this little roof thing right here where the little bell would be. Little overhang one way. Kind of like a little eave on the other side if you want. This is a small church. This is a small little church. Cabin church. Makes you want to play around with it a number of times here. I might need a little practice on this steeple. Find the angle I want here to have this end properly, because right now I'm just kind of mixing paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape a couple of windows. These windows are tall ones, like a church stained glass. So they're like two little knife widths high. And now, rarity in the Bob universe here, we're going to put a little light in those windows. Pull out my cadmium yellow, and using this small roll here, just going to touch and pull, touch and pull. Trying to make these just a little touch. You can my ear. I'm holding my breath. There we go. Now, Bob didn't do it in this scene here, but if I were to take just a little bit of brown, you could make like a little cross beam on these windows. Maybe not. If you don't like it, I'm just going to put that light right back in. There we go. Now, oh, excuse me. Might need just a touch more white. Bare touch of white. And using my fan brush or the 1-inch brush, it doesn't matter. I got the fan brush ready here. A little bit of this off-white. And now we can, need a little more paint on the brush here. And then I can clean up the base of this church here. Take this 1-inch brush, show you how that works. Looks like a little snow is kind of built up on the side there. Adds a little plane, if you will. Okay, since I've got all this paint out here, let's put in another tree. Let's turn this little tree right here into a foreground tree. There we go. Maybe a little lower. Maybe there's some foliage, some leaves and underbrush there. Now this foreground tree, he needs a buddy, he needs a friend. Let's give him a little one right on the back side there. Tapping down. Oh, he's kind of a scrawny tree. There we go. Clean that brush super quick. Now I'll take a little bit of that thinned white and blue mixture here. Get some paint right up on the tips of the bristles. And let's give this some highlights. Ooh, a little snowier one. Can't forget about the buddy back here. And the foliage. Can't forget about the foliage. It needs a little bit of highlight there too. Just pushing up. Create these little shapes. There they are. Little frosty guys. And then we'll clean up the bottom edge here. Create a whole new plane in the foreground. All right, looks like we got our little scene. That one went pretty simple, pretty easy. Takes a little bit of practice working those buildings and making your shapes, so I'm going to thin down a little bit of color. Sign this one. I think I'll be teaching this one next month. in Trenton, Michigan. If you check out my website, you'll see the this picture getting uploaded soon. And I think I was calling it Silent Night, but it's from the episode from season 15, Christmas Eve Snow. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.